Hello everyone, my name is Christian, welcome to my hobby blog. Today we're doing another video, episode of the Withering Watchpile series. It's been a while, but I was unable to get anything. I had a lot of fun titles for me to do, and then someone took a single dollar from my account, and my bank, which is really good, stepped in immediately and shut everything down. I was like, well shit. I could have gone something before. Like, I could have bought something. And then they were like, nope, we shut it down. You're going to have to wait. And I just got yesterday. So 3.5 weeks later, I finally have money again. And it's too late now because I just rewatched movies to this theme. The theme, of course, is Black History Month. So we wanted to do something to, celebrate and honor Black culture because it is Black History Month. I was going back and forth on whether of just doing Black directed films or just having a Black lead counting it. We were pretty nebulous on it because as long as we're discussing great movies and celebrating Black identity, then it's all good. So my movies are more historical. I have one idea of what one of your movies is because you told me, but everything else I assume is pretty good. So all of mine are like milestones in Black representation. And I guess I should welcome you back. Hello, Leon. Welcome back. I just went off there for a second, but
it's fine. Thanks, Christian, for having me again. I always enjoy it, man. And this is an interesting topic because I don't think it's spoke about enough. And I've always been a fan of Black cinema and haven't really talked about it much. So this got me real intrigued. And it's probably the less horror I've done out of any reviews on my films. So it's pretty interesting. But the topic is definitely worth a look at and to speak about. So I'm excited for this again. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I kind of realized because I've seen the Shudder documentary Horror Noir, I think is what it's called. And I rewatched it today because I was just cooking. Well, not cooking, but I was making cookies and just kind of doing stuff like cleaning the apartment and all that. And I had it on because I've seen it before and I was listening to it. And I kept stopping and just watching my TV and like not doing what I needed to do. And one thing I realized is that there's a lot of just, Black-led movies, but there's really not much Black horror films. And it kind of shocked me because the one I chose for my first one has a Black star in it. And they made a huge deal out of the in the documentary about how it was kind of the first one, and it's a 1968 film, which is a pretty huge hint of what I saw. But the point is that it was 1968 was the first one where we had a normal just guy, and not a stereotype or caricature, character being played. And then after that, in the 70s, it was blaxploitation, which there's a pretty even split on whether it's actual exploitation or not. There are many fun documentaries. One of the interviews I've seen for my second movie kind of discussed what blaxploitation is and how the main star of that movie doesn't like that word at all because it has a negative connotation. He didn't feel like he was being exploited when making the movie. And in some movies, they definitely felt like it. And everybody on set was white. And they talk about this in the documentary. I forgot what movie it was. I think it was Blackula they talked about. Where it was just the guy who played Blackula. He was the only black guy on set, and everyone else was white. And he had to really fight with everybody, him and the director, on just getting anything, like, accomplished. Like, they talk about the club scene and how whoever was directing the extras had all the white people on one side of the room and the black people on the other side of the club. And the director's like, what the fuck? Combine them. Have them act like people. Like, what the fuck? And, so there's that whole 70s era. I'm kind of giving a very simplified history of black representation. But I guess pre-60s, everyone knows what it is. Very awful caricatures. Completely supported by the White House, Woodrow Wilson. They talk about this in the documentary. I'm a huge shill for Shudder. I love Shudder. They make some really great documentaries. I talked about Scream Queen, which is the Nightmare on Elm Street 2. But this one in particular has a lot of great details. But the 80s kind of regressed, I think they called it, because it kind of went back to the Sacrificial Negro, which is an actual trope that is identified by horror film, or even just film scholars in general. It's a term coined by a kind of horror film scholar, like academic, who wrote a whole book on horror movie tropes. I haven't read the book, but I know enough from that author to know that she knows her shit. And this term, if you don't know, is the black character who is completely concerned with the safety of our main white character's well-being. So they made an example out of Friday the 13th with Miguel Nunez, who is also in Return of the Living Dead 1, and he's awesome. And Return of the Living Dead, I haven't seen Part 5, I think he's in. I've only seen up to 3 right now. He's the one who talks about those damn enchiladas. I know that meme, but...
Yeah, he's in Friday the 13th 5, I think, The New Beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Is that one?
I think so.
I'm getting a brain spot here, but that's the enchilada scene, and it's hilarious, iconic to me, man, but that's when it went a little back to the characterizing. The black character was the sidekick in the film, and
yeah,
he pretty much had, where it's developed so much, it changed. It went from sidekick to, we have actually a main character process here. It's grown over the years, is what I got out of that documentary. Was the different changes from decade to decade or whatever, and it grows to, from when you go to Get Out, newer films like that, you have the strong black character role, which has increased throughout time. So I pretty much got out of that.
Yeah.
That makes some sense.
Yeah, it's really cool to see it, because they do give it in chronological order. They do start with Get Out. Very, I guess, summary-wise, because they do go into it really deeply later when they have Jordan Peele on to talk about it. But the trope of the Sacrificial Negro is the whole, it's a black character. His entire character is to ask about the well-being and be the funny sidekick and like all this different stuff. And it definitely took a regressing back step of what it was becoming in the 70s with like Pam Grier, although she was a sex symbol, as the one woman scholar pointed out in the documentary. Is that, yeah, she was kind of a sex symbol, and she had better roles, but, at least she was the main character, and she was able to act how she wanted for the character, and, all the stuff in the 80s was just, the crazy sidekick, oh boy. And the 90s is when it kind of really took a turn with Tales from the Hood, which I haven't seen that movie, maybe. And
well, you gotta see that one, man.
Yeah.
That's one of the best horror anthology films. Just has a strong message all across it.
Oh, yeah.
On each story.
And they said starting with that, it really kind of progressed because of the 1991 riots, which Sublime, which I'm sure we're both huge fans of, at least we were in our teens, because everybody was, with Santeria and all that. But there's a song based off the April 12th, 1992, I think is the song title, which is all about the riots that occurred after the death of a black person named King, I believe. It's not MLK, obviously, because it's
Rodney King beating
Rodney King, yeah.
Yeah.
And how the people who killed them got acquitted. And I'll go into this later with my last movie, but not to give spoilers, but that was kind of the moment when a lot of different directors who've been watching, you know, blaxploitation films were like, okay, we're gonna get into movies and have some sort of justice in the world for what the shit we deal with. And the 2000s, they said that was still going on. I can't really remember the 2000s part of the documentary that well. Maybe Candyman, but that's late 90s.
Mm-hmm. We probably go into like Dracula. There's a film Dracula 8 where you have Omar Epps playing like a side character in that one. Mm-hmm. But it started to grow because I'm trying to say Vampire in Brooklyn, but I think that's 90s with Eddie Murphy, which he was a strong character in that film. He was the main one. Him and Angela Bassett, but you kind of saw their characters, like I said before, grow. Because I even saw in the documentary where you see The Craft, where that black actress is portrayed as the side. She has to always praise the white character there first. She's like the sidekick where she has to say, "Is it okay? Is it okay?" She explains it in the documentary, and she pretty much explains like it's different for us because I'm the only black girl in that film. Everyone's white, and I'm there because she's all. Could you flip it and have a white girl, the only white girl, in an all black film? How it's gonna feel for her? It's different, you know. You gotta adjust to it. And how you were pointing out, they were separated, and all eyes were on one person, which it shouldn't be. It should just be it's a person's film, you know. We're all people, whatever. But for some reason, I could sense the uncomfortableness of that. I could like the documentary. I was like, could picture myself standing there. You're different race with all these. It's gonna be awkward, you know. No matter what you are. But
yeah, and that was one thing that I think everybody talked about in the documentary is that, like, yeah, we were the only black people, but hey, maybe this would lead to even better experiences. And, yeah. I mean, I think Tony Todd, he said before Candyman, he done a bunch of, like, no-name movies, and Candyman came out and just blew the windows out of everything. And that movie I always loved, and there was always that asterisk for me, which is that it is directed by a white guy. And I think one of the actresses that they interviewed, she was like, you can tell that the movie was written by a white guy because he's plaguing the slums when he should be plaguing these white people. Yeah. Who probably their ancestors probably were responsible for all this shit they have to go through. Like,
that's who Candyman should have been after. They said, like,
yeah,
the other side, not us. You know?
Yeah, and she was like, that's how you can tell it was written by a white guy. Like, and I was like, huh, that's a really good point. Because I was like, this movie's pretty good. Like, it nails down, you know, the themes really well. And Tony Todd is always championing the movie, but it was nice to get someone who wasn't involved being like, actually, guys, it's not all awesome because you can tell that it's a white guy writing it because of this. And it was really kind of...
They're attacking the wrong people in this film.
Yeah. Why is he going after, you know, his own people? Like, he should be targeting...
inner urban neighborhoods, he would not be there. He'd be wanting to get the ones who betrayed him since... Because he's portrayed as a slave in the film. He's tortured in the past. He's like, he's going to go after them first, not us, not where he grew up.
Yeah, and that was one thing that convinced me to finally, I guess, want to watch the sequels, because I still haven't seen them. I heard that they were awful and boring and this, that, and the other, and I was like, okay, I just won't watch them. And there's the one actress who was talking about the sequels and talking about how completely underrated they are because it gives non-black people a lot more context to what Candyman is all about. And I never knew the behind the scenes of who Candyman was, which is that he was a painter, like back in, the slave era, and just living his life, and a bunch of white people tortured him, lynched him, cut his hand off that he drew with, like all this shit. And I was like, oh my god, I don't know if they say that in the movie. I've seen it many times, and I never noticed. Like, I never knew that was a thing. Maybe it's in the sequels, because they did show footage of him getting tortured and all that, so I assume that's in one of the sequels. But yeah, I need to go see them now.
I just watched the whole franchise. Which I'm going to do a video of. And it gives more of his backstory when you go to part 2 and part 3. You see more of what happened to him and understand more of his backstory. And then when you get to which I saw the remake as well, Jordan Peele film, that goes in a different direction, but it still stays true to that main story of him. It kind of like expands Candyman's story, if I could. But I don't know. I really enjoyed the sequels. They don't live up to the original, but they're solid all around.
Yeah, because all I heard was that they were terrible. Don't watch it. It's boring. And I was like, okay. And I just kind of moved on with my life because there's a billion movies out there. So I'm like, okay, don't watch those. Okay, moving on. And then watching this documentary, I'm like, oh, maybe I should watch them. Like, Vestron has them all, I think. They just released number 3, I believe. Number 2's been out forever from Scream Factory, I think.
Yeah.
So. But who went
I don't know.
Last time?
I enjoyed them all for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't have a complaint on my part. But again, I do like bad movies, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, speaking of, The Witch is getting a 4K upgrade, and you're not losing your mind. Like, oh my gosh. I'm losing my mind. Like, I can't believe
I did not care for that movie on my first watch.
It's time to revisit it.
I'm considering a revisit. Maybe I'll enjoy it more.
We are getting a bunch of new documentaries about it, and a 60-page hardbound book, just like in the Dawn of the Dead set. That giant book, so I can't wait.
The edition looks nice. I saw the cover art.
Has Black Phillip.
Yeah. I'm not the hugest fan of it on my first watch, but it could grow maybe.
I will say it was the same way for me. It took about to my third watch, and I got it, and it clicked for me, and I loved it. And every watch since has just improved. It's definitely a detail rewatch kind of movie. It's kind of like how people rewatch The Shining like every other day, and they still catch new stuff. It's just like that. It's the modern day The Shining. And I know a lot of people love The Shining, but I don't care for it, personally.
I love that film, but
I love the filmmaking of it.
I could understand. Like, I even like Dr. Sleep. I thought that was a solid sequel to it.
I've been meaning to watch that. I read the first half of the book. I've read all of The Shining, but the first half of Dr. Sleep, and I was like, this is great. And I just never finished.
I like how they do the homage. They take a lot of homage to the original, which I was cheering for at the end. I was like, yes, you brought it back to that. That's what I wanted to see.
I know.
No spoilers, but...
Yeah, I know they really actually used the book this time, because it's a really famous battle between Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick. I just realized they have the same initials, SK. Okay,
that's weird.
Broke my brain for a second, but they both had huge fights about that movie, and Stephen King hated that movie. And there's that famous beginning shot of the car getting hauled from the road when our family is driving down to the hotel. There's a green car that's getting, like, hauled out of the snowbank. And that was kind of Stanley Kubrick's nod to saying, like, fuck the books. Because that was the color of the family. And he changed it and showed, like, oh, completely destroyed, completely unsalvageable. That was kind of his nod, like, I'm changing it. I'm doing what I want. So if you detach it from the books, it's amazing. But I can't, because I read the book. And I love the book. So... And they actually talked about that in the documentary. About the Seventh character. And how awful that was. And that was one thing I never got. Because he did live.
He got axed. They were complaining about that axe scene.
The second he walked into the place, he gets killed. Like,
yeah.
He has the Shining. He should be able to see that. And they talked about all that. Yeah. But, who was the first one to go last time? I can't remember.
I can't either, man, honestly.
Well, I actually have little amount of notes. At least for my
Go ahead and go first
movie.
since you have little notes. You could go. I'll just go second.
Okay, so this was a white director movie. This is my only one, actually. I did make an effort to balance out, the white with the black. But this is a movie I love and is near and dear to my heart. It's a George Romero film. It is I have the Criterion here. This is Night of the Living Dead. I got this for like $16 on Amazon when it first came out, back when I was a student and I had no money, and I will never forget nailing such a good deal on one of my favorite movies of all time. And it opens like this, and it has like the comic. I don't know if you have this edition, so
I do.
I'm just showing it off because I love the thing. And they have the original poster and full. They have 2 discs because there's so much fucking special features. And I did watch the commentary track, so that's where most of my notes came from. It's a little cluttered, the entire commentary, because they have 6 people in a room, all talking at once, the entire fucking movie. But George Romero's there, and I was listening to him mostly. And this movie's from 1968, which is very, 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 very important. Because when they were making this movie, they have a whole story about the casting. Because this was the first movie, really, ever in the history of film. At least an American film. Which they talk about in the documentary, too. They really cover the bases in that documentary. Go watch it. They talk about how, in America, this was the first major movie, or movie in general, that had mass appeal, that had a main black character who was smart, who was sexy, who did the things that you would do, and was like just a normal guy. He wasn't bumbling, he wasn't funny. He smacks white people around, which is a really funny part of the documentary. Everyone's like, oh my god, Dwayne Jones punching white people in the face. This must be a racist worst nightmare. And the big story around the casting for that is Dwayne Jones was a pretty accomplished literature professor at the local Pennsylvania college. And George Romero talked about this multiple times, about how they didn't choose him because he was black. He was just the best actor who auditioned for the role. And they were like, well, obviously we're going to get this guy. And Dwayne Jones showed up on set and was like, yeah, I'm not doing a truck driver. I'm going to be a smart guy. I'm going to be charismatic. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to speak clearly. I'm not going to speak in slang or anything. I'm going to be well-spoken, you know, all this stuff. He was like, I'm not a truck driver, because that's who the character was when George Romero and John Russo wrote the script. And they were like, okay, sure, do what you want. And so he basically rewrote entire scenes in order to make his character a lot more refined and more intellectual, as George Romero called it. Because he was a professor in real life. He taught, like, Shakespeare and, like, literature works. So he was really fucking smart. And later on in the commentary, this is one they talk about in the documentary too, but it was fun to hear it straight from George Romero about how they were traveling to New York City, I guess, to do the final, not editing, but processing of all the film reels. And they had it all in their car, in the trunk, or whatever. And on the way to New York City, again, 1968, they hear the radio broadcast saying that MLK has been shot and assassinated. And that's when everyone in the car, Dwayne Jones was there, I think George Romero, and the producers. There was like 4 or 5 people. They all were like super melancholy and sad and depressed. And they were like, we need to turn this movie in. This movie is history. This movie's exactly what we need right now to kind of, you know, empower people to not be, you know, as depressed about the future, because MLK was a very important figure, someone who was really trying to unite and give black people a lot more rights that they deserved, and he got killed. And I don't really know much about his assassin, or on whether or not he was acquitted, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was acquitted and they found something, you know, because later on I'm going to talk about a particular movie that is exactly on that, about the Rodney King trials. But they said at that moment, they were like, we're going to, like, it is our life goal to get this movie, you know, made and finished and turned in, because, like, they just all knew. And George Romero is actually a great director in that respect. Like, when everyone was talking about George Romero in that documentary, there was no complaints, really. And everyone was heralding, you know, his decision to find the best actor instead of someone, you know, not of the same color as him. Because, you know, oh, hey, you know, what blaxploitation basically was in the 70s with, trying to think of a good example. I think they use Blackenstein 1 or something. I can't remember the name of that movie. But they list a couple of examples of that. They talk about how Wes Craven even did that with Vampire in Brooklyn and something else, about how they casted a black guy just because they were black and not acting ability. But Dwayne Jones is absolutely amazing in this movie. He is the smartest guy ever. And watching this movie after the documentary is so enlightening, because I always thought this was just a great horror movie. But watching all the historical influences and what was going, the historical context, I guess, just really brings it to another level. And it's also really fun to watch a black guy punch a lot of white people in the face and not get shot because of it. Although I guess he does get shot at the end of the film, spoilers. But they also talk about that a bit, which I already knew, because I saw it in the theater, this movie. I saw it at a nice little theater, at an actual movie theater that you could get seats for, and it was on the big screen. I never thought I would have that happen, but we were talking about that a bit, about how at the end, it looks exactly like the news footage you would see of the lynchings and Vietnam-era photography, too, with the burning piles of bodies. And I guess you'll go into more of this later, but with Get Out, he was like, we're not having the depressing ending. You know, the original plan was to do, you know, the Night of the Living Dead ending, but we were living a nightmare today. So we're going to have a hopeful ending. But this movie started it all, I think, with the killing your main character at the end. Like, nobody does that. They talk about the red shirt phenomenon, which they also linked with the Sacrificial Negro trope, which is that in Star Trek, the guy with the red shirt is always shot because you can't kill the main characters. You can't kill Spock, Dr. McCoy, Uhura, I can't say her name because I can't do my R's, but Captain Kirk, you can't kill any of them. So find a crewmate with the red shirt. Oh, he's dead. Okay, good. Same thing happened to black people in the 80s. That was a fun little link to Star Trek that they, well, not fun, but interesting connection. But I don't even want to talk about the movie itself because everybody knows it. I think it is exactly what needed to come out in 1968. It reminds me of another great film called The Human Condition, which is a 1956 Japanese film, which is all about a Japanese businessman trying to be a good person through World War II. And the movie was highly controversial in the making because it took 3 or 4 years. It's a 9.5-hour movie. And it was highly controversial for the director to make. But he was like, I'm going to make this movie. And ends up that was kind of the way that Japan was able to really tackle the responsibilities of World War II and kind of distance themselves after the fact or something. They talk about it in the Criterion essays, but talking about how it was such a huge thing. And this is exactly kind of the same case, I think, with the assassination of MLK. So this movie's awesome. I wish Dwayne Jones had a lot more to do. Not in this movie, but just outside of this movie. He wasn't in anything else. He did this one movie, and that was it. And he was awesome. He died a couple years ago. I can't remember when, but yeah, this movie is just awesome. I think everyone should watch this. And considering that's my number 3, like, it's just going up from here. So I don't have anything else to add. It's an awesome release.
I totally agree with you. It's a masterpiece to me. That whole Romero Dead series is just so... You can't top it. You can't do that no more. With the zombie phenomenon. And like you said, it had a lot of importance. Like I saw in that documentary about MLK, like you were describing. It was a big deal for that time, especially everything going on. And it's even... There's a scene on that documentary where Dwayne Jones is talking or whatever, and he's like... You guys were the boss, but now I'm the boss. And it's a big meaning to that. You know what I mean? This black character's in charge, so get used to it. And he tells all these white people, like, you know, tables have flipped now that we're in this zombie apocalypse. I'm the smart one. You listen to me. And that's very important for that film. And then also it, like you said about the lynch mob, it's real related. Even when they're hanging the zombies in ropes, that's like straight out of the lynch mob era or whatever, and it has a lot of meaning to it. Even the way he shot at the end, the guy looks like a guy from the main lynch mob that you'd see that shoots him, and it's real controversial. Like, and we'll fast forward to the Get Out, how you say the ending. They wanted to flip that because that ending could have been controversial. Now it would have been for sure, but
yeah,
that's an important film.
Yeah, because at the ending, with our lynching look-alike pictures, it made me think of the Emmett Till murders, which I don't know if you know much about that, but that's from like the 60s or the 50s, I believe, kind of before civil rights. And basically, that was a full-blown lynching. Like 80 people were involved or something. And it was like a 12-year-old boy that they lynched. And they had it in the newspaper. They had pictures of his body all over the newspaper. Like, having fun. They called it like a celebration. like all this different stuff. And it's fascinating to think about Night of the Living Dead and the ending, because if they didn't have the actor be black, it would be totally different. Like, I wonder if they would still keep that ending if it was someone else. Like, they don't really touch into that, and if they did, I didn't notice. But I wonder, because at the end you have the police with the dogs, and in the documentary they are having it side by side with the police news footage or whatever of them actually doing it in real life. And so I'm kind of like, man, did he really capitalize on that and just really strike the point home? Like, it's really interesting. It's a fun thought experiment. Because it's like how much changed during the production of the movie, casting Dwayne Jones. Because Dwayne Jones, as I said, would rewrite entire scenes and make it just a lot more sensitive and better for representation purposes. Because he was a professor. He was very learned and smart. So I'm sure in his mind he was like, no matter how many people are going to see this, doesn't matter. What matters is that we make a great movie that treats us all, you know, human. And especially in that time of year. Like, they filmed it over a pretty short amount of time. I guess I can go into some miscellaneous behind the scenes. But they filmed it at somebody's house. Like, they didn't really touch the inside of the house at all. It was like the producer's mom's house. And they literally went around in the community, in this tiny community, and were like, hey, do you want to be an extra in our movie? And they were like, what movie? It's like, Night of the Living Dead. Actually, it was called Night of Anubis when they were making it. And it turned into Night of the Living Dead later. But, so there's a really fun little featurette on here where they interview everybody who was a stunt double or a stunt guy for a zombie. And so they talk to the nude woman who shows up kind of towards the end of the movie, who's the zombie. They interview the cemetery zombie, I think. They interview the two old zombies that we see. They interview the leg-eating zombie. Like, they interview everybody because they're all still in this tiny town. They never moved away in the 50 years that's been since Night of the Living Dead. So that's a really fun featurette to watch. They all have really funny stories about George Romero and about how this scruffy white guy would knock on the door and be like, hey, we're making a movie. You want to be in it? Sure, what do you want us to do? Oh, we're just going to put green paint on you. And it'll look awesome on camera. So, yeah.
And now we have this masterpiece to this day. I'm going to have to look into that. Extras, because I haven't seen much extras on it.
Yeah, there's two audio commentaries. I listened to one of them, which was the one with 48 people. But the other one, I think, is with an actual film scholar, who I think I'd rather watch.
Yeah.
Seeing if... Oh, there's archival interviews with Dwayne Jones. I should have watched that. Dang! Oh, well. That's sad. I should have watched that. I'm sure I would have gotten a lot of great info for the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well. I'll figure it out. What'd you watch? What was your first choice?
Okay, so I'm going to get into my first film, and it's a mid-90s, I'd say drama film. It's going to be from director John Singleton. It's Higher Learning from 1995. And this has an all-star cast in it. I mean, I could read it right here, and it's Jennifer Connelly, Ice Cube, Amar Epps, Michael Rappaport, Christy Swanson, Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, this has every actor in the book you could think of in this film.
Wings Hauser.
Yeah, but this is a film I could see being put on Criterion. Just like Do the Right Thing. This has like, it's not filmed as good as Do the Right Thing, but it has the same meaning. And
That's got a Criterion.
This film, I could see this one getting released on Criterion. Hoping I'd pick it up in a heartbeat, but this brings all peoples from all walks of life. I mean, it's focused on a college university, and I mean, you got white, black, brown, Asian. They're all united the way a university would be, and it takes you through the racial tensions you experience in college or university in the 90s, where it was more extreme. I don't know if extreme, but more out there, I guess. But I mean, you have racial tension in this film. You got rape, which is a strong point in my town because the college that is in my town, there's been some sexual assaults on women, and it focuses on that in this film, where they even have alarms at the university where you could click if you're being harassed or something, because a lot of that was going on around universities around my area. And education, this is an educated film. It focuses on, how could I say it, the difference in the way you're treated, like because you have a college university where they party, you have white people's parties, and then you have black people's parties, which the black people's party gets shut down by security. You got a lead security officer who's probably Ku Klux Klan member, I don't know, but you guys got to turn it off. And you have Ice Cube in this film, who's he's a powerful black man in this film, educated, studies it, and he goes up to security and pretty much tells them, why don't you shut their party down? They're playing it down the road. And he's like, because I like rock and roll. He tells Ice Cube that, and Ice Cube's like, they're playing their rap music. And Ice Cube just pretty much tells him, did you hear that? He tells his guys, this is how we're treated in society. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a difference in that. And I mean, you got this guy, Malik Williams. He's played by Amar Epps. He's a track runner athlete. He kind of has a negative attitude towards stuff, and it was actually originally supposed to be played by Tupac, but he got put in jail, so he couldn't he couldn't do the scene, But it goes to all walks of life. You got a guy named Remy. He's played by Michael Rappaport. He's a lost white guy that just doesn't fit in with anyone. He's trying to find friends. He's treated pretty harsh. And then one day he just stumbles across a skinhead race, like the skinheads that are around there, and they bring him in. So he's like, I fit in somewhere, and he starts to go down a wrong path, a negative path. And it's funny because Rappaport plays this white guy from Idaho, but he has a strong New York accent, so it's kind of goofy. It's like way off. You could tell he's not from Idaho. But anyways, it leads through race and sensitivity, and you got this guy who falls off. He's pretty much led to do some negative stuff. He gets involved, and you got a war between white and black. You got a rumble in the middle of the campus between them, and it's real entertaining. They're busting each other up and laughing afterwards. And like I said, you go back to the Christy Swanson character where she gets raped, which happens a lot in universities. She's drunk and she tells the guy stop, and he continues, and
she won't
pretty much takes advantage of her. She has a black roommate played by Regina King.
Oh,
and she's real solid in the film. And she calls the guy and tells him she don't want to talk to you. The guy's like, well, I don't want to talk to you either, you black bitch. He tells her like that, straight up on the phone. She goes and calls the black guys. They go to that party, man, and get these guys out and start busting them up. And then you see them like, we're sorry, they're apologizing, whatever. And security comes and blames it all on the black folks, of course.
Yeah.
But it has a strong message, and it leads to this guy that doesn't fit in, and he's tempted by these skinhead race to go kill a black person. And you see him go in, little minor spoiler alert, he goes with a sniper rifle to kill, and this is the first time in a film I've seen a school shooting, which is irrelevant today. And director John Singleton points that out. He's like, I probably couldn't make this film today because it went, the sensitive stereotypes and the school shooting. He goes pretty much the school shooting with his figures. That one fly today. But overall, this film's important. I think it could have had more to it, but it does focus. And then you got Lawrence Fishburne. He's a professor who does an excellent job. He has a horrible kind of Jamaican accent that doesn't fit him, but he's very powerful in this film. Rest in peace to John Singleton. He's one of my favorite directors. He died in his 50s. But anytime it's a Singleton film, I'm all in. He gives that urban feel to it. But at the end, it leaves a powerful message, which is called higher learning. And with all the racial tension, the sexualizing in this film, it clicks on the end of the film, unlearned. I thought that was powerful. Because he's pretty much saying in this film, no one learned anything. We went back to the same roots we've been doing for years, where it's racial and violence, and look what it leads to, because you have some killings in this film I won't get into, but it's all over nonsense. Like what we deal with today, this film would still be irrelevant today in my eyes, but it's still going on over and over. But yeah, I've always enjoyed this film. It's a classic from 1995, and I think it gives a good view of college university life, even though sometimes it could be a little exaggerated, but still a good message in the film overall. So I would recommend this film if you want to watch a well-educated film, but then it has some nostalgia to it, the 90s, because it's very 90s. But that's pretty much all I got to say with that first film.
I'm adding it to my watch list now.
And I could see this on Criterion. It fits it.
I hope it does. Has a great cast. Tyra Banks? You didn't even mention Tyra Banks?
I didn't even mention Tyra Banks, man.
Oh my god. Buster Rhymes?
Buster Rhymes.
Vitamin C? Who's that?
It's not orange juice, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. It's a woman. But, yeah, that's still an issue at college now.
Awesome soundtrack.
Oh, yeah?
Rap, alternative, and metal all mixed in the film.
I assume the skinheads listen to the metal.
Yeah, he's got a Metallica poster and Pantera.
Well, Pantera, I understand him having that, but Metallica, I think, is a little better than that.
It didn't fit that, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I really want to get the Do the Right Thing Criterion. Because that movie is just like this, where in the beginning they're like, I think even the older characters like do the right thing, and then at the end of the movie the entire neighborhood is burnt down. It's like, no, they didn't do what the guy said. It's like no one learned anything at all, which is
when was Do the Right Thing put out? What year? Because it could have been inspired by that film.
It was definitely 90s. I gotta look it up because I'm not the...
Oh, I didn't show the edition.
89.
Got a DVD 4-pack. John Singleton. Got Higher Learning, Baby Boy, Poetic Justice, and Boys in the Hood.
Didn't Boys in the Hood just get a Blu-ray?
It's got a 4K. I haven't got to it.
Oh, okay. It was 1989. Do the Right Thing. So
this film was inspired by Do the Right Thing, but like in a college university setting.
Yeah, because at my college, we could sign up for like a phone like notification service where it would text you every time someone filed like a sexual assault charge against somebody, or there was a police response to a rape or sexual assault. And I remember my first year I signed up for it, and I was like, oh boy, I can't wait for it to never go off. And it went off like every night, basically.
Oh, wow.
And they stopped it because there was so many complaints about it, that they just stopped notifying people. I was like, oh. I was like, I don't know if that's a good step, but okay.
Yeah.
They brought it back pretty quickly, but I think you had to do a lot of hoop jumping in order to get it turned on, because it was like ridiculous. They would spam you every time, like, stay away from this area, don't come near here, but if you're in this area, do you see a guy with a black hat on, or a guy with jeans on, or whatever? And it was like, oh my god, like, sounds like every college student ever.
Yeah, because where I live, there was like 5 or 6 sexual assaults, like, in a semester. So I was like, that really does happen a lot, so I guess, in college. And I mean, this girl's so devastated by it, she actually, like, goes half lesbian in the film. She's like, it's nothing to do with men after that. She's like, just so disgusted with it. It takes her a while, but
a heavy breach of trust.
yeah.
So I can go into my second one now, if that's all.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
So this is the next movie in my timeline. I didn't mean for it to be a timeline, but we're now in the 70s. Right at the tail end of it, 1979. This is a all-black cast, except for the police officers, of course. Directed by Jamar Fanaka, who is, I can't remember, but I remember he was like a martial artist, or like someone athletic who was like wanting to go into the movies. And this was his first breakout hit, I'm reading from the back. This is a Vinegar Syndrome, so
nice.
It's blaxploitation, but as I hinted at earlier, the main star of this movie hates that word, refuses to use it, but I'm talking about the amazing movie which I have reviewed, Penitentiary. This movie's so fucking awesome. It's Rambo, but with a black guy, and actually good. I'm not too big of a fan of Rambo. I like it, but I think number 2 is a lot better. But this movie is basically about a guy who is hitchhiking down the highway. He gets picked up by a white woman. They go out on a date to a local diner, and all the local racists heckle him and get him arrested, basically. And so he goes to prison. There's a lot of eccentric people at this prison. It's an all-black prison. There are no white people, really, at all. Yeah, there's really none, come to think of it. Except for the guards. So I think that was probably a deliberate choice. But they have a huge boxing like scene, I guess, where every week they go out and do a big boxing match between all the major boxers in this place. And our main character is trying to get into that and fight his way out of jail or prison. And that's the entire movie, and it's awesome. There's a lot of great monologues by our trainer character, who is called Seldom Seen. And our main character is named Too Sweet, because he's too sweet, and, you know, he's just really great at boxing. It's like, ooh, that was sweet, man. Like, that was kind of the explanation that the actor gave. But I did not watch or listen to the commentary track with the director. I watched the interview with Leon Isaac Kennedy, who is the main star who plays
awesome actor.
Yeah, this guy. This is not a real shot from the movie. I don't know what this picture is from, but it looks like he's falling down some stairs. I like the alternative artwork a lot more. Here's what it looks like. You can kind of see him, I think. But
Yeah.
I have the original one switched out because I'll always go for the original. I'm trying to get the disc in. There we go. I don't have the slipcover. I wish I did. I got this way after the fact for really cheap, along with the second one. I guess I will go into the behind the scenes now. Apparently, the director was going to write a thesis, like for his master's degree at UCLA. And then the director kept putting that off and decided to make a movie instead, because he saw blaxploitation movies a lot in the 70s. This is 79, so at the tail end. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to make a movie that isn't blaxploitation, but is black focused. And I'm going to prove to them that I can just make a movie and it be good. And the way he found Leon Isaac Kennedy is that, I'm skipping around here. I should just go in order. I'm sorry. So after he started to make movies because of blaxploitation, Isaac kind of talks about how he hates that word and wishes that it was just called B movies instead. Because a lot of people talk about, you know, Christopher Lee, Vincent Price, like all those movies that they did, the hundreds of movies they did, and how not all of them were really that good, but, you know, you don't call them whitesploitation or anything like that. You just call them B movies. And the actor wishes that would change, and he was asked many times while he was making the movie why he was doing this dumb, you know, boxing movie, as he called it. All his friends and family would ask him why he was doing this dumb boxing movie. And he said he wanted to prove that, you know, black people could be leads. And he actually became an actor because he loved reading Errol Flynn, who played Robin Hood. One of my favorite Robin Hood movies, although he was like a huge drug user and like horrible person. He always this is what Leon Isaac Kennedy talked about, which was that he would like always hit on all the women on set and like all this different stuff, always on drugs, and would show up drunk or hungover. And
he was an Oliver Reed.
Yeah. But he said that while he was a DJ, the actor was, that he met Magic Johnson, Muhammad Ali, and many more people. He listed them off really quickly, and I couldn't write it down fast enough. But he was going to be the sympathetic victim, which is another character in the movie. I didn't write down his name, but ended up that he had become friends with Muhammad Ali and got really fucking built. Got super chiseled, like six-pack, crazy strong. And the original actor for Too Sweet was like just not showing up on time. And one day didn't show up at all. And they were like, alright, we need somebody to play this character. We're going to fire him. Anyone here work out? And the guy like took off his shirt or whatever. And he was like, yeah, okay, you're the new lead. You've never been in a movie before, but you're the lead now. And he's kind of great in this movie. Originally, the character was going to die at the end, somehow. They don't really talk about it. But, they didn't want another Night of the Living Dead situation, which they talk about in the behind the scenes. So, the actor And the mentor character, he is fucking awesome. He's seldom seen because he used to be like a hotshot back in his day. He's been in jail for 60 years in the 78 years of life he's been in. So he's been there since he was 18.
Wow.
And he talks about how he always refuses to leave prison because he doesn't know the world. And he has all the great monologues in this movie. He talks about how when he first went into jail, like TV was just becoming a thing. And now people are riding airplanes all over the world, which was like unheard of when he went into jail. And he's like, I'm not going to live out there. I'm going to die. And it's just like the old man character from Shawshank Redemption, except a lot sadder. But the main actor actually rewrote a lot of scenes with this trainer character because it was going to be, you know, just not as good as the actor said. He said, you know, script was pretty good, but, you know, I felt like I could really spice it up, you know, really hit home all the themes. And so he did. And for one of the fight scenes in the movie, we have a antagonist character. He's probably the closest thing to an antagonist in the movie. His name is Half Dead. They have all these great nicknames. He's fighting our main character with a steel pipe. And the director, without telling anybody, handed the antagonist a real steel pipe. And was like, go to town, have fun. And our main actor found out really quickly that this was a real fucking steel pipe as it was ringing against, you know, the bars of the prison cell. And he stopped that shit so fucking fast and was like, I will literally dub it myself. The sounds of metal hitting metal. Like, give me fucking styrofoam. You are not killing me on set. Like, this is ridiculous. You're not putting my brains all over the floor, is what he said in the interview. And so he actually worked on the dubbing, apparently, because he was like, I'm not doing that. I refuse to get hit with a real fucking steel pipe. Which was really funny. But, it's interesting because after all this stuff, he was talking about his current day activities. And now he's a minister, and he talks about how for the last 20 years or so, there are so many older people, like people he never expects to know him, like showing up to him after service and be like, hey, Too Sweet, nice to meet you. And he always loses his mind every time. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know me from that? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And he, like, talks about it for a while. He kept getting off topic, actually, during the interview. It was like a 50-minute interview. But I'm sure it was actually like 15 minutes they were planning. And he just kept telling stories about the behind the scenes. And it was like a lot of fun. But he talks about how at one point he was talking to Charlie Murphy, the brother of Eddie Murphy. And he got invited to, like, doing, I don't know, rehearsals, I guess, for whatever movie Charlie Murphy and Eddie Murphy were going to do. And so he was like, yeah, sure, you know, I'll sit in. You know, it'd be fun to, you know, hang out with y'all. Because, I mean, they were all getting pretty big at this point. And he showed up to the location, they said, and Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy came out and recited, like, a lot of the lines that Too Sweet said throughout the whole movie. And they had, like, the whole movie memorized in terms of the lines and the quotes and everything. And he said, like, that was the biggest compliment, was Eddie Murphy riffing with his brother and saying all the lines. And there is a sequel to this movie that Vinegar Syndrome also released. And that movie, I don't like it at all. a lot of people do. Rudy Ray Moore shows up in a cameo, which is my favorite part. Charlie Murphy is the main antagonist in that movie, along with...
Is it Mr. T in it, too?
Yeah, Mr. T is in it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of big people from the 80s is in that movie. They replaced the older mentor guy, because his entire monologue at the end of the movie is like, I'm never leaving here, because in here I am free. And, like, all this great, monologues and speeches he makes. And then the beginning of the second movie, he's like, nah, I want to live in the real world. And he leaves prison, and he's been recast at this point by, like, a much younger guy, because it is like a, 70-something-year-old guy playing this character. And then in the sequel, it's like some 40-year-old with white hair. He's like, hey, it's still me. I'm seldom seen. And, like, completely tears down everything he said in the original, and I hate it. But, so after meeting Charlie Murphy and Eddie Murphy and ending up being best friends with them, the main actor got introduced to Snoop Dogg in the 80s. I guess after the second movie came out. And apparently he was a huge fan of Penitentiary and would recite all the lines too to Eddie Murphy and Leon Isaac Kennedy. And I never knew any of this. I was kind of like, in my brain, I guess, it's like two different time periods. But I guess they overlap a lot. Because he met all these people. Magic Johnson, Snoop Dogg, Eddie Murphy. But, yeah, okay. And so that's all my notes. But I did make a note here that this movie is like a mixture of Rocky and Death Race. That's like the best way to describe it. Except it's a million times better. Although I love Death Race. So.
I need to see this one.
Yeah.
I've seen it before, but I never watched it. But right there, I'm sold. It seems like my kind of movie, right up my alley. And
oh, it's awesome. It's really funny, too. Lots of nudity.
Snoop Dogg was a big fan of those old films, like even the old music, and I could see him being inspired by this film and Eddie Murphy as well. And I'm a big fan of Leon Isaac Kennedy, man. I watched him in Lone Wolf McQuade. He's been in a lot of films from there.
I knew his name, but I need to look him up.
He has a lot of good films out there. But I've never seen these films. I'm gonna have to check them out. Even the one he said, the dreaded sequel, I might find some fun in it.
It's really cheap, so that's how I got it. He's in New York Ninja? Oh my god.
Probably a voice.
There's
a lot of voices in that.
Yeah, it is a voice. Everybody's a voice in this movie.
Everyone's a voice in that film. Got Don the Dragon Wilson. He's a voice for the main character.
Because they lost the audio track, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost. They had to, like, rebuild that whole film again, pretty much.
I know I own the extensive release by Vinegar Syndrome. Eventually, I'll get into it.
It's a fun film, man. I liked it. Cheesy as hell, but fun.
Say that like it's a bad thing.
It is.
Oh, is it?
So bad it's good. Films right up that alley. He's freaking throwing ninja stars at random street people, and it's just sticking them, dude. You just know they're like putting it on them.
Oh yeah.
It's not bad as shit.
That's how. Have you seen Samurai Cop?
No, I've heard.
Oh my god, that movie is insanity. That movie's so bad.
I'm gonna check that one out.
I have that one actually. I got that like really cheap. I don't know if it's out of print now, but Samurai Ninja or Samurai Cop, whatever it's called, is so bizarre. It's made by an alien. Like nobody acts human in that movie at all.
I need to see that one.
You're on your second one, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna get into the one you know about here.
Woo.
Get Out.
I get a surprise for the last one.
I hope I don't let you down on this because I know you know probably more than I do. So, but I hadn't seen this film since the theater. I saw this in the theater, and I haven't seen it since then.
I haven't. I wish I saw it in theaters.
It's directed by Jordan Peele, director of Us and the new Candyman, which you guys probably already know. But I'm gonna get into a brief plot on this film. We got Chris and Rose. They've been dating for 4 months. You probably know this. They decide to take their relationship to the next level. They go to visit Rose's parents in the countryside. At first, Chris thinks Rose's family are just nervous about him because of the interracial relationship. But as everything starts to go, there starts to be a real odd behavior between everyone. He starts to suspect that something's not right here. You know, he's seen pretty much the maids and everyone, they're his color and acting real odd, and you know the plot of this film. But as the weekend goes on, Chris discovers more disturbing stuff to Rose's parents. I'm gonna leave it at that in case people haven't seen it. Which
the twist is awesome in this movie.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm gonna get into this film. There's a lot more to this film. There's a lot of symbols and imagery to this film. I mean, there's what Jordan Peele was saying is that there's a lot of imagery and symbols of slavery that was in the South, because it has a real South feeling to it. And you got an example of that is the parents' estate. It's real set like you would back in the South days when you had slavery, and it's purposely put out for that. And also the costumes of the characters, like you see one of them that, I don't want to ruin it, but a guy that's there, one of those black men that's working in that area has pretty much clothes of a slave from back in the day with the straw hat and all that. And there's a lot more meaning to this film. Jordan Peele said this film was inspired by the Stepford Wives of 1975. That's where he got the inspiration for this film, which I haven't seen that film, but I do want to see it. We have a bingo game scene where the dad's auctioning off Chris, pretty much. And they said that's a real strong symbol of how they used to auction out slaves in the old days. So, this has a lot of imagery towards that. We also have Missy, that's Rose's mom. And she's like pretty much a doctor, deals with hypnosis and all that, and which is in this film for a big scene. But she uses a silver spoon on her to hypnotize her victims. And Jordan Peele said that was done. It has a symbol for meaning privilege, which meant to the white people how they have a privilege.
Oh, a silver spoon, yeah.
Yeah, silver spoon.
Born with a silver spoon in your mouth, yeah.
So that symbolizes a lot. And it also has a nod to where white people controlled black people in the days by slavery. So it took mind control in this film. And we have a deer that's hit at the beginning, which has a lot of characterization, I can't say that word, but to Chris, where he's feeling helpless, lost, and it's a big meaning towards his character, pretty much.
And they used to call black people bucks back in the day. I did catch that in the documentary, and I was like, what? So I didn't know that.
And he actually kills a character with a buck.
Yeah,
yeah. But this film is so great. Like there's even in that, you're saying that documentary where they're saying what's the scariest experience for a black person? Because at the beginning, when a guy's kidnapped, he's walking through a suburban neighborhood, getting abducted
I meant
by
to
white
talk
people.
about that, yeah.
And it, like
walking alone at night in the suburb. No, don't do that.
Or black dude's like, that's a nightmare, more scarier than any horror film I've seen. Yeah. So, I was laughing out loud at that one. And you also got again, we go to the category of one black person surrounded by a bunch of white people, rich white people. He's like, man, that's a nightmare. It's waiting to happen. But man, I really enjoy this film, and I like you're getting towards that ending. I'm not going to ruin it, but we go back to that documentary where they said, like you said, Night of the Living Dead ended. Jordan Peele said, I wanted to take that inspiration for the ending, but I wanted to flip it where we're the dominants. Because I even thought that when I was watching the film, because you see him trying to make it through the film, and then you see the cop lights, you're like, oh, fuck, he's fucked. They're either going to shoot him or put him as the murderer, he's getting jailed or whatever. But no, it's his buddy coming out of the car, like, to rescue him. And you're like, can't help but cheer. You're like, because even before that scene happened, I was like, he's done, dude. He's fucking dead. It's a cop show. And all these, you got all these murdered white people. It's not gonna go good.
Yeah.
And then you see his friend jump out of the car. You're like, yes. It's not. He came to rescue him. It's not gonna end the way I thought it was. But yeah, nods to this film because you have a strong black final guy, if you could say that, and you haven't seen that in a lot of horror films. He's like, I've seen in that documentary where they're like, a lot of them like, when's the black guy gonna get killed? You know, he's not making it past 30 minutes or whatever. They had a joke about it. And even Ken Forey's like, I survived Dawn of the Dead, man. That was one of a kind or whatever. But you kind of see, and you're like, man, this actually is changing the features, the characterization of, you know, a minority, because you don't see that too often where they survive a horror film. But
yeah, because one of the scholars in the documentary was like, oh my god, a black lead in a trailer, he's going to survive most of the movie. Like, he might die in the end, but hey, he's the main focus of the trailer. Seems good.
It's a lot longer than we've lasted in 80% of horror films. So
yeah.
It's a celebration, you know what I mean? But yeah, I love this film. This is probably right up there, right? I have a hard time going between Us and this one because I love both films. But
that was one of the movies I was going to watch, was Us, but I couldn't find a copy. Well, I'm sure I could find a copy. I just didn't have money. So
yeah.
It was a big bummer because I've been really meaning to go into that because I'd love to Get Out my first time. I didn't at all get the connections my first time. It was this documentary that pointed out every single thing. And one part that wasn't mentioned was when he's picking the fluff off the chair. Like, that's cotton. He's literally picking cotton. And I'm like,
There's a lot of symbolism.
I never even noticed that.
I wouldn't have known that if I didn't watch that documentary earlier when she's explaining it.
Yeah, and when she hits the spoon, he falls into the underworld or whatever that the director called it, Jordan Peele. He said it was very purposely made to look like an empty theater, you know, because that's how us black people were watching horror movies, because there were no black leads ever except Night of the Living Dead. Which
they were done to protect the white character. Like, are you all right? Like, they explain in that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And I didn't even notice that either. And I'm like, fuck. It's like, I need to rewatch this. And, like, really, like, pause after every scene and study it. Like, this is definitely a movie that needs to show up on Criterion. He has done... there's a series by Criterion on YouTube and also the streaming service, which I don't have. I need to get it, but there's no app. There's a series called Adventures in Movie Making. And, you know, Del Toro loves his Talking with Criterion because he shows up basically every episode. He's like, let me tell you about this very obscure movie no one's ever heard of and about why I love it. And Jordan Peele has done videos with them. And I'm just like, come on, release his movies on Criterion. Because Get Out, I think, is very important. So,
yeah, it is.
And there's a pretty great article by the New York Times, I believe, where they kind of talk about Criterion's lack of representation of black filmmaking. And this was in 2020 that they wrote this. And Criterion was like, yeah, that is a huge blind spot for us. And thank you for pointing it out. We're going to fix it. And they have been. They have been putting out so many box sets. And this was another thing I wanted to do, was to dip into the the Mystifying Works of Mullen Wiggs, which is a big box set of all his movies. He was a gay black man in the 1960s. And so that's like huge already, a black person having directed films in the 60s. On top of that, he was also gay, and he died of AIDS in the 80s. I think he actually made movies in the 70s. Maybe there's a couple movies in the 60s in the box set. But I was going to use that for this video. I was going to use the essential films of Melvin Van Peebles, which I own one of his movies, and I was going to talk about it, but I don't think I've tackled the movie enough to give it the attention it deserves. But Criterion is doing a lot better work representing black voices, and we need to get Jordan Peele into the collection, because that would be awesome.
Definitely. That's pretty much all I got on that film, man. But
yeah, I can't think of anything else to add. So, okay, we are back from our restroom break.
I couldn't make it, man. I tried. But I forgot to show my edition of Get Out. I do have the 4K.
Ooh.
And I got this for $12 at Best Buy with the slipcover.
Oh shit! I hope there is a Criterion edition, but you know.
I'll probably double dip because I love that movie.
Yes, that's why I've been hesitating, because as I was talking about, he deserves to be in the collection, and he's done special features, I know, so. Maybe they're working on a super edition. Who knows?
He has a new movie, too, that he's advertising. I haven't seen it yet. But
oh, is there?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. There's a trailer out on it.
I've been rewatching a lot of the Key and Peele episodes. They are so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I like that show.
I love the... my favorite one... Oh, yeah, Nope is what it's called.
Nope. Yeah, there you go.
He called it his answer to, something. I don't remember. Oh, Daniel Kaluuya is still in here. Yes! He's the guy who was in Get Out as Chris.
Oh, nice.
And they have Stephen Yeun, who is, you know, he's from Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, Glenn.
Yep. I don't want to say he was done bad, because he was killed the exact same way as in the books, so. I just wish
brutal.
The Negan introduction was a little better, but that's just me. Yeah, so I guess I will go into mine now, if there's nothing else.
I'm done. Go for it, man.
So this last one I did stream. I loved it. It was as good as everyone says it is. It is Tales from the Hood. Everyone's right. It is as awesome as it was. I loved it. It's one I have been not purposely avoiding, but you know, anytime Shout Factory has a sale, I'm always like, but here's 40 other releases I want, and I get those instead. Well, not all 40, obviously, but I choose from that 40 what I want, and I never include Tales from the Hood. It's shooting up fast into my top movies to get, along with Creepshow, Trick or Treat. What other Shout Factory? The Critters box
Body
set.
Bags is pretty good. Body Bags is a good anthem.
The final John Carpenter movies. Slumber Massacre. Slumber Party Massacre, I mean. The second one, not the first one. First one's okay. Second one is fucking awesome. Same director, too, thankfully. But, this one's 1995. This is kind of the last in my timeline of major representation of my first one being a white director, but black lead. My second one was black director and lead, And this one is like also the same, but also tackling every issue ever. And I loved it. If you don't know, which I don't think many people have seen this, but this reminds me of Day of the Dead, where like nobody has seen Day of the Dead. But for those who have seen Day of the Dead, they fucking love it. This is very much the same case. The story is basically a couple drug buyers or dealers show up to a funeral parlor and they're like, hey, you're our contact to buy drugs. We want to buy drugs. And the guy is like, but first, let me show you stuff and tell you stories. And it becomes an anthology movie. So just replace the comic book from Creepshow and have a creepy funeral mortician guy telling you about what not to do. Or actually what to do. I was watching the intro credits. That's kind of always where I play, what's it called? Not whack-a-mole, but it's like a treasure hunt for me to see if I recognize any names. And I recognize one name, and it's Spike Lee. He was one of the producers of this movie. And if you don't know, Spike Lee did Do the Right Thing and a million other awesome movies. Black Klansman, I love that movie. I could have rewatched that for this one, but the movie is so depressing that I don't want to watch it really again. It's awesome. Adam Driver is in it. Couple other people. Mike Epps, I think, is in it. That's his name. He plays the main guy. Mm-hmm. It's based on a true story. And the ending is the most gut-wrenching shit ever. It's not the Night of the Living Dead ending. It's the, okay, you just saw all this awful shit on a TV screen, thinking that it's just like a movie. Oh, here's news footage of everything we just covered. And it being normalized, and it all the same messaging you've seen the entire movie. Here's Trump saying everything that these characters have been saying in the 60s. Have fun! And you just want to throw up and kill yourself because it's so depressing. And it is so masterfully done. And I love that movie, but I don't think I can ever watch it again. So yeah, it was fun to see his name on the list of credits. The mortician is played by Clarence Williams III, who became a pretty big actor after this movie, which I didn't know. I've seen his face a million times on the cover. Everybody knows that face. I have it screenshotted, so it's not the best quality, but I don't know why.
I like when he goes, in the shit.
Yeah, like, he is the best thing about this movie, on top of an awesome movie. So, I love his charisma in this movie. And this is what I was kind of hinting at earlier, in that, in the documentary, Horror Noir, that we've mentioned a few times now, the director was one of the people being interviewed. And that's kind of why I was motivated to watch it, because I was like, okay, I have all his comments like written down. Okay, good to go. I can watch this movie and not have to write anything, because I have everything I need already, because he just said it. He made it because he watched the Rodney King riots going on. He was super depressed. No justice in this fucking world. And so he was like, I'm going to make a movie where we see justice happen. And my God is the schadenfreude, as they call it, was the feeling of, like, pleasure at someone else's expense. Basically cheering when you see someone righting injustices. The first story is basically about really shitty and corrupt cops covering each other's asses while killing unarmed black people. And one of the people they kill is a high-ranking politician and advocate for black people's rights. And the one black cop doesn't realize it's him. And he's like, oh shit, like, you guys fucked up. You guys killed this guy. And he's like, oh, who cares? You know, this, that, and the other. You better not say anything. He's like, I'm going to quit in order to protest, you know, this police department. And becomes an alcoholic. Nothing has changed about the cops because they see him again. Later in this, it's kind of like short films, I guess, is one way to call it. And the ghost of the murdered politician is like, hey, these guys fucked my name up. Redeem me. Or whatever. And so he tricks these cops out to come out to the graveyard and enacts revenge. And it is so fucking awesome. I loved that story. Not the most, but it's up there with my top 2 out of the 4 stories we saw. The second story, though, is what I loved the most. This one's about a little boy, Walter, who is getting visited by a monster every single night. And there are growling noises and like this, that, and the other, and big shadows. Basically the entire short film. And then ends up it's a shitty stepfather. And they talked about this in the documentary about how the actor playing the stepfather was this really great comedian. And they were like completely horrified the entire segment of this movie. And they the director talked about how in one of the first screenings he went to for this movie, there were a couple teenagers in the back kind of laughing in the beginning part of the stepfather ripping the mother with the belt. And he was disturbed at first, but he kind of realized that they were getting quieter and quieter every hit. And so he kind of realized, like, oh shit, they grew up with this. You know, and they said, or the director said by the end of that segment, it was just deathly quiet throughout the entire theater. And he kind of realized how important that segment was, because a lot of people in the black community have experienced that. And I think he talked about his experiences with it, at least growing up, hearing it from all his friends. And there's a look, I love the teacher that was in that segment. I don't know who he was played by, but there's a look he gives when the boy talks about how his father is dead, and the teacher kind of gives him like a sympathetic look. It's just a look in his eyes. And that's like a great acting, in my opinion, to show like, hey, I know that too. I know that pain too of my dad dying. And it's like, it's just a quick, very quick thing. But that was probably my favorite story. I love the ending of it. I love Pretzel Guy. That was the biggest shock to me, and I saw it in the documentary. Pretzel Guy was so fucking awesome, where he twists the paper and his arm just fucking... Yeah. Oh my god, so scary. And I have no experiences like that. And that's what I loved about this movie, is that it's a good litmus test for sympathy. For people who have not lived these experiences. Because it'd be really easy for someone to go, oh, this is too fantastical, this doesn't happen to anybody. But for people who know better, and know how shitty humanity is in general, it's pretty normal. And it was very heart-wrenching to watch this movie. Because I knew kind of about how it was structured. I've seen Snoop Dogg's version of the movie, which I hate. It's not good. There's a lot of farting. I don't really know what the movie's purpose is. It's Hood of Horrors, which I think is why I never saw this movie, because I was like, oh, Tales from the Hood. It's probably as bad as the Hood of Horror, which is the Snoop Dogg movie, which I owned for like a day. And I watched it, and I was like, this movie's awful. This movie's not funny. Nothing. There's nothing to work with on this movie. But this movie especially really nails it. The third story I liked a lot too. It was okay. It's about the disgusting white politician who is like living in the Civil War slavery house. And all the black people are like, what the fuck? Why are you living in a slave handler's, house? And he's like, oh, it's the history. And a news reporter is like, sir, you have ties to the KKK. Can you expand on that? And he's like, no. And we're like, walks off. So it's like, okay, we know. Like, this guy's pretty awful. But like, watching that segment especially, I could just see 2016 to 2020, all these people, getting asked similar questions, and they're just deflecting and not, learning from it. But that one was pretty awesome. I didn't really care for the puppets, but I get it. I get why it's awesome. The fourth story is about a prisoner who has killed a few gang members and who has a history of violence. And he gets captured and is given medical procedures against his will. And all I could think of during that scene was the actual historical period from like the 60s all the way to like the 90s or something. Or like from the 30s to the 60s. They talk about in the documentary. We keep talking about it. But there was a real life event. Well, not even event, but period of Southern history where the government and scientists would approach entire black neighborhoods and be like, we have the cure to syphilis. And they were like, okay, we'll pump you with it. It's free, totally free. We just got to write down some details. And ended up, they were not treating them at all, and they were using them as guinea pigs for syphilis to discover the lifelong effects of syphilis, of looking up just anything about syphilis. It's basically like the Nazi experiments and just all this horrible stuff. But that's all I could think of during that entire segment, because they're injecting him with stuff. They're doing all sorts of medical procedures on him without him even able to consent to it. So that one, I think, was not the worst one, but it's the least imagined, I think is the way to say it. I loved 1 and 2 a lot. 3 was okay. 4, I think, was good. But, yeah. That's really all my thoughts, because I was more focused on actually watching the movie, because I've never seen this movie. But I think maybe I gave good enough info to justify me giving 8 minutes or so.
I'm glad you saw this, because it's one of my favorite horror anthology films. It's in my top 5 for sure. I put like Creep Show, Trick or Treat, and Tales from the Hood on my top for sure. And it deals with a lot of important stuff that's still relevant today, man. You got police brutality.
Oh yeah.
A white racist politician. I won't get into any names, but you got.
I'll go into names, but you
got the. Like you said, they did experiments, used the black people as guinea pigs. Pretty much was pretty fucked up. And the last one, I mean, in the urban neighborhoods, a lot of that drive-by gang stuff was high in the 90s, man. You had, it's still going on, but in the 90s, for some reason, there was a lot of drive-by shootings and it goes through different aspects, and then I like the wraparound story where they're actually already in hell. Spoiler alert, but
Oh, that ending blew my mind. I didn't know that. They didn't talk about that in the documentary.
no,
And that's all the
but
info I got was Pretzel Man and the politician. Where he says, can't we all just get along? And it's like, shut up. I just wanted to smack him. Like, shut up.
yeah. And like you said, on the abuse story, that happens a lot. And you got David Allen Greer from In Living Color playing the dad. He's usually like this fun, outspoken dude, and you see him as a serious piece of shit.
Oh, he was scary in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
He flips character. But yeah, this one's so well put together. And you brought up Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horrors, which is, it's pretty bad, man. It's horrible.
It's nowhere near the level of this.
Yeah. But this one's put together so good, man.
I have a controversial opinion. I think I rate it higher than Creepshow.
I can see that.
Like, I've seen Creepshow a million times. I don't own it. I meant to a while ago, and it's sold out. But, God, I don't know. Like, I love this kind of stuff with themes. Like, Creepshow is like the safe version of the anthology film, where it's just more fun. There's a couple commentaries on stuff, but this movie, you could tell it is deeply rooted in the experiences of everybody involved. Everybody who was involved in this movie had the exact things, not exact same thing. I mean, nobody is doing drive-bys, but all of them have had dealings with the police that were not good. I'm sure a lot of them had experiences like in the second story of abuse. And maybe the medical experiments isn't as widely experienced, but I think all four of the stories have like a kernel of truth that everybody can relate to. That I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I'm white, and I'll never have a bad experience with the cop, but, you know, I can understand the fear. And it goes back into the Get Out ending, because I'll remember when that first movie came out, I heard a lot of comments about how white people were very confused at the ending, about why all the black people were like, oh shit, when the sirens went on. Like, white people just don't understand the fear of police sirens. And I remember hearing that a lot, and I felt the same way at the ending, because, I mean, I was a fresh student. I didn't really have the learnings I do now. And I remember watching the ending, I was like, oh, is that it? Okay, you know, that's good that he didn't die, you know. It's the anti-Night of the Living Dead. But it's recently that I've been like, oh, okay, like, watching this, watching, not Hood of Horrors, Tales from the Hood, watching those now, like, I have a lot more appreciation for what the directors are doing. Like, oh my God. Masterful,
I've
in my opinion.
never gone through too much stuff either. I can't relate to the abusive part or any of that, but I mean, I'm Hispanic. I'm Spanish, but I've been asked by people if I talk English and stuff like that, or fucking I've been called Jose a couple times, and I'm like, come on, man, you know what I mean? But I've never been to that extreme where, you know, got to deal with stuff, but I could see it. I've seen it, and it's a lot of important factors in that film, like. What else could I get in that? On the abusive part, I mean, I've had friends that have gotten their ass whooped by their parents, but I don't know if in that kind of category, but
not with
I've
a belt.
It, but not with a belt, but who knows?
Mom getting punched in the face. That was the first, like, holy shit. Like, he just immediately, bam, like, with his palm. And I was like, And he did that to the kid. I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Complete piece of crap there.
And I loved in that segment how the kid was rationalizing the abuse as a monster and not his stepdad. Because this is a thing that psychologists have figured out, is that kids rationalize things a lot differently than adults. And they're able to just turn a part of the brain off and be like, oh, it's a monster, you know, and this is a perfect example of that phenomenon. So
they draw, kids are toned, like, will draw something and he's drawing everything. I mean, he's drawing him as a monster. That's in his imagination of, not imagination, but yeah, I guess imagination of what he is, because he really is a monster. But I just love how it's put together, kind of like a voodoo doll, where he's just crushing him. And
I loved how he ended up like murdering his classmate, who was just like bullying him. And he's like, fuck you, and just balls it up and throws it in the trash. And it's like, you hear a scream, and then like the next scene is like the ambulance. We don't know what happened.
yeah,
I was like, oh
shit.
I was like, I know what's gonna happen now. Now I know the context of Pretzel Man. Because he literally, every limb, like, twists the paper and folds it, like, perfectly.
It's twisting up.
Oh my gosh.
I got to give a notch to those effects, man. They're so wicked. Like,
it's all practical. Like,
yeah.
The hell scene looked pretty bad.
Cop's getting smashed into the wall. He just crumbles up like a bowl of pudding, goes inside the painting. I'm like, wow, man. It's the stuff I like.
And I love the part where the mom stomped on a piece of paper and the guy just exploded. Just like, oh my gosh. That was pretty awesome.
That's a great final setting to it. I mean, to close it out. She deserves that, to do that.
Yeah, and it goes back to what the director wanted to do with the movie, is that after seeing the Rodney King riots and the police officers getting acquitted with no punishment, no justice for the victims, he was like, you know what, I'm going to make my own justice. So he makes these people very awful, and they get the worst, like, things happening to them. And I know there's just like a big breath of fresh air for people who felt that, you know, betrayal and loss. Like, watching the news and seeing on the movie, oh, all these cops are get violently murdered by the ghost or the zombie of, you know, the politician. And then the dolls all come back and kill the politician, the white politician. Like,
that was awesome.
There was so much feelings of just like, yes, like, weight lifted off your shoulder. Because it would have been really easy for every ending of that short film to be like, oh, and he went to jail. Oh, it was all in his mind. Like, the guy ends up in the mental hospital anyways, in the first one. But it doesn't matter. He won. It's like, all those cops that he wish he
could have done something and he didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he gets punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not spared, you know, just because he's black. Like, he fucked up too. And the zombie
he keeps his life, but ends up going psychotic, crazy.
He's completely broken the rest of his life, I guess. We don't see it. We don't need to. We know what happens. He's in that padded cell.
Fucking gone loony and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's also directed by Rusty Cundiff. I don't know anything else he's done, but I need to throw that in. 1995.
He's done Tales from the Crypt, Demon Night, man. One of my favorite films. You need to see that one if you haven't seen
that one. So this is a great reminder, because by the time this uploads, you'll have about 12 hours to watch Tales from the Hood from Shudder, because it was part of the leaving in 20 or 48 hours section.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I tried to draw from. And it was like, you better watch it now. And I was like, what a great timing. And that was the next one that's coming down too. So I need to watch that.
That's an awesome film, man. Anything else you got to say there, man?
This movie was fucking awesome.
I agree.
Onwards.
So, you want me to get into my final film here?
Oh, yeah.
So, this is my first time watch film, and I saved it for last because it was a big surprise to me. I'd been wanting to watch this for years. Well, I mean, it came out in 2016.
Ah, damn, no voodoo anymore. Damn it.
Yeah, I need some of that, but it's going to be Moonlight. It's an A24
Oh, yeah.
film.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
And it's directed by Barry Jenkins. I couldn't find much on him, but I'm probably going to slaughter this name again, but it's Mahir Shala Ali. Main character. Well, I wouldn't say main character, but he's a important character. He came out in Luke Cage, the Marvel show on Netflix, and Alita Battle Angel. I guess he's in that film as well. And he's rumored to play Blade in the new Blade films.
I was wondering if there's updates to that.
This film is a drama, man. It's set. I had heard about this, and I'd been wanting to watch it, but I knew it had an urban story to it, which I love that kind of film. And then I knew it had to do with a gay topic in the film. So I was like, it seems interesting to put those two together and see what they can do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start off with a film. We got a character named Chiron. I could show you on my phone because I streamed it, but there's a picture.
I love that cover. That's why I need to watch
it. It's awesome. But this starts off right away. You got a urban setting in Miami, and you got this guy, what's his name? Juan. He's a big-time drug dealer. You could tell he don't take shit from anyone. He's working the blocks. He wants his money. He tells drug dealers on the scene, you come up with my money or consequences. This guy doesn't mess around. And then you got this character, Chiron. He's a kid. Because this film goes into 3 chapters. It goes through his childhood to his teenage to his grown-up. It goes in chapters, and you got Chiron. He's being bullied. You see him running through a field. Bullies are pestering him. He runs into a freaking crack house to hide because he's so terrified.
Oh, God.
And then you got Juan, this drug dealer, and he comes in and finds him in there, and he's like, you all right? And he's like, nah, this guy's trying to he won't talk. He won't speak. He's quiet through this film. Not a lot of dialogue, but he tells him, he's all, you all right? Why are you hiding here? You want to go eat? I'll feed you. You know, he's right away caring for him. So, and he's like, he won't say a word. So takes him out to eat. This guy's scarfing a plate down. You could tell this kid hasn't ate in I don't know how long, man. And he takes the plate from the kid, and the kid's like going to cry. And he's like, man, okay, I'll give you back your plate. I didn't know it meant that much to you. And he's just feeling sorry for the kid all around. And then you got him where he takes him back. I mean, he takes him to his girlfriend's house where he wants to stay with them because they're feeding him. I guess he hadn't eaten in so long. It's a real heartfelt film. And you got they take him back the next day to his house. You got his mom. She's got a work uniform. She seems like this character that's just, she's worried about him. You get this vibe like she's a good mom. But then you start to see the other side of her. She gets him in there, and she starts to say, well, he could take care of himself. You know what I mean? He's independent. He's probably in 3rd grade. And you're like, he can take care of himself? I don't think so, or whatever. And
I can barely take care of myself now.
Yeah. Same here. And, he started to find out that he's getting bullied in class. His mom's a drug addict. She has a drug addiction. So she's leaving out with boyfriends. And he's seeing all this. You know, I mean, it's messing with him. And he starts to develop this drug dealer, Juan, as his father figure. And he tells him, you know what? You're me when I was young. I mean, I didn't have caring people. So he's like, looks out for him. He's buying him stuff. And the mom hates it. And then later on, the drug dealer runs into the mom on the block looking for crack. And he's like feeling more bad for him. He's like, this guy, his mom's a crackhead. She's not caring for him. So he takes him in more where he starts sleeping at this drug dealer's house and the girlfriend's house. So the girlfriend starts to be his mother figure. She takes care of him and feeds him and has a place for him to sleep because the mom's bringing boyfriends in the house left and right. And you fast forward, he starts to grow up. This is the strong point of the film when he's in his teenage
That's what I've been.
Here's
I was gonna make that comment. That's what I've been
this
hearing.
is probably the best part of the film, because you get him where he's more independent, but his mom's more lost in the drugs. And I mean, there's a scene where she's searching him for money, his pockets and everything, and he's like, I don't got money. But he later does have a stash in his sock. She takes it from him. Yeah. And he's like, whatever, Mom, will make you feel better, you know? And he takes care of her. He covers her. I mean, he's a good son, but he knows she has a problem. And you get where he gets back to school, he's back to being bullied. There's these guys just pestering him. And they're suspecting he's gay because he doesn't have no interest in women. You could tell from the bat, this guy is, you know, and the drug dealer tells him, if that's who you are, man. Just be who you are. And he just has a hard time. He's like, I mean, it says the F word, the faggot word. He's like, what's a faggot? He asked the drug dealer when he's younger. And he's like, it's a guy that likes other men. And he's like, I don't know if I am. He's confused about his sexuality. And you got, as a teenager, they're harassing him. They're calling him these names and just bullying him, pestering him. You feel for this Tyrone character right away. You're like, man. And he meets this guy. They develop a relationship. And this guy's talking about women left and right. I got this woman, that. And he's like, oh, yeah. But turns out this guy is, you know, kind of gay as well. Spoiler. And they start to develop a relationship. They start to care for each other. And these guys just don't like that. They have a scene where they pretty much dare this guy to beat up this guy. And he has to hit him in initiation, and he does, and it breaks his heart. They don't have a relationship after that because they had like a love experience, whatever, with each other. And fast forward to when he's a grown-up, and you got this drug dealer that died, his father figure. He's him now. He's with the nylon on and the drug. You know, he's hardcore now. He's gotten older. He went to juvenile hall, and he's followed the footsteps of this guy that was his father figure. And you got his mom. She's in a facility. She went pretty much crazy. She had to go in a house. He visits her. He's still taking care of her, even though she's betrayed him through his life. And he's became that guy that was his father figure. I mean, he's a hustler with the drug money and the cars, and he's got that life he only knows where he grew up. And then he reunites with his love interest, that guy from back in the day, and you know, they try to reunite and get their situation goes, and it develops where this guy he did prison time, got in trouble too, but he snapped. He became a cook. He's successful, and this guy's in the streets, and they're kind of interacting like we're from two different worlds now, but you could tell they still love each other, you know what I mean? And it takes a situation to that, and I'm going to get into the extra stuff in here, but I mean,
I'm always here for extras.
The writer of this film was gay. He wrote the film, and it's based on his life. Oh. What he dealt with in the streets of Miami and all that.
That's a lot of depth.
This character is him, and his name is Terrell McCraney. And he's a gay guy that experienced this. He grew up in an urban neighborhood, was bullied. So this is his story, pretty much. And there's a scene where this is the meaning of the film, pretty much. There's a scene where the drug dealer Juan's sitting with a little Chiron and telling him, I walked into this old lady and she called me Blue. And he's like, well, why did she call you Blue? Is that your nickname? He's like, no, I'm Juan. But she called me Blue because she said that I'm a black kid running in the moonlight and I look blue. Ah. and he's like, the meaning of the film is based on this moonlight. And then that just stuck with me through everything. And then I looked up the meaning of it, and it means peace and tranquility, to find yourself. And that's what this character Chiron's trying to find through the film, is what he is. He's confused. He can't find his true meaning. So that I think that's pretty much why the film's called Moonlight. And you got a scene where they're in the beach, and you got Juan and a little Chiron. He's teaching him how to swim. He doesn't know how to swim, so he's getting him in and out of the water. And I guess that refers to life, restarting your life, because that's where Chiron starts to discover his life, and it's a baptism, like it's cleansing you of everything that you've been through, you can still revive yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it has deep meaning in this film, but man, I was blown away by this film. I just thought it was put together so well, and it's not a lot of dialogue. It's based off emotions. Like, there's not a lot of talking, but you get like these movements, and you know what it means. It's like weird, like. And I'm glad I watched this. It's an A24 film, and man, it was everything I expected and more. So
yeah, A24 always knocks it out of the park for me.
I just it's different, but it's got a solid meaning to the film overall. And it's my favorite out of the bunch. That's why I saved it for last.
Oh yeah,
and
like
I need a copy of this ASAP.
Yeah, this was I haven't seen it ever, and this was definitely a movie that I heard about a lot when it came out, because I was in school, because it was 2018, right?
2016.
16. Okay, so yeah, I was in school. This was right before my collecting days. And I remember, you know, it was a huge fucking deal at school when it came out, because I was in film classes and, you know, all that. But,
yeah.
I never saw it. I don't know why.
Same here.
I always heard the teen era, I guess, of the movie was really fucking good. One thought that I had of what Moonlight could be about is trying to figure out a way to articulate this. It's gonna take me a few seconds to rationalize this. I was drinking this beer a lot faster than I thought I was, so it's hitting. But Moonlight, I'm gonna just think this out and just thinking out. But Daylight, I imagine as, you know, you're letting everything out in the open. Who you are, no shadows allowed, in terms of no secrets allowed. And so Moonlight, to me, with the context of our main character being gay, is living in the open, but in actuality you're hidden. And you're being shown, especially considering that our character is black, but being called Blue is given a bit of a different being out in the open, being given a different identifier, maybe, of what he actually is. I haven't seen the movie, but in my mind, it's another way for him to describe his queerness, which is all about being hidden from who you really are. Because the way that my mind is rationalizing this is someone standing at the beach, you know, combining the learning how to swim metaphor and actual event that we see in the movie. I imagine someone at the beach, you know, late at night. It's usually really fucking dark at the beach, you know, at night. And so the moonlight is just slightly revealing who you are in terms of your shape and who you are, you know. You can kind of see your face, kind of not. You're hidden in plain view, I guess, is a way to describe it. Maybe I'm too drunk to articulate this.
No,
but,
you're hitting it, because there's a lot of romantic scenes at the beach.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, where he's romantically expressing himself, it's at a dark beach.
Yeah, and it also hides blushes, darkness. So there's a lot of different things. Like, I haven't figured it out, obviously. as I try to describe it.
Mhm.
And I also haven't seen the movie, so I'm interpreting director choices and names of these things that I haven't seen yet. Because there's a movie similar to that I can't remember, but yeah, you've convinced me to finally watch it.
Watch
Because
it.
I was just gonna like
great.
let it go by, you know.
So was I.
I heard one person say just watch the teen part of the movie.
That's the best part.
But like in my head, I'm like,
Acting
don't I
wise too,
need
because
context?
the teenage actor is the best character in the film.
Yeah, I would hope so. If he's the best part of the movie. I don't know. I just got an out of context text from someone saying, "Believe it or not, I'm really bored at the strip club," and I was like, "What?" It's like I got no context.
Dollars, man? Did you run out of dollars or what?
I just looked down and it was like, "Dude, I'm bored at the strip club," and I'm like, "I need a lot more." Okay. I don't know, that's an aside, but that just threw me off. I was like, what the fuck? What?
Bet. Randomly.
I was like, I need more info. Okay. Anything else? What else is there to talk about?
That's all I got on this film. I'm sure there's a lot more metaphorically on this film that I didn't get.
You know, I'm all about that shit.
So I would like you to watch it, because I think you could break it down with stuff I didn't catch, you know what I mean?
It requires multiple viewings for me to really dive deep. I mean,
because there's a lot of more symbolism and metaphors on this film. But I didn't get everything, and then I watched the streaming, which I didn't watch any extras. There's no extras on that, so
yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot more.
There's only one streaming service that has extras, which is the Criterion channel. And I don't have that. In that one, all the special features that you find on... Well, let me show an actual Criterion. They actually have the commentary tracks, they have interviews, they have documentaries on the streaming service. And they also have added themes, monthly themes, every month. And so there were two that I really wanted to dive deep in, because they do like 30 movies or something, one per day, or 31. I think they do 30 on average. Is about average month length, but they have 30 movies adhering to a theme, and there were two themes I really, really wanted to go into. One was Afrofuturism, which is black-led sci-fi films, and then early woman filmmakers, which was like 1920s to like the 40s, I think. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've never seen a movie in these genres. Yeah. And that's why I need to get the Criterion channel. But then I would never give them money again, because I would just watch everything on streaming.
Yeah. It has the extras and everything, so what more do you need?
I need sick artwork.
There you go. There you go.
To prove that I'm a movie guy. Not my knowledge, but physical material.
You need to hold it in your hand, man. That's the thing. Just hold it in your hand.
I also need posters all up. I've been meaning to put like something behind me, like a green screen, just so I can have a poster when I talk or something. I don't know.
I need posters too. I ain't got nothing.
I've got nothing around this whole fucking area. I need a lamp.
I got my movies, but
your shelves look a lot wider than mine.
Well, I got older ones, like I was telling you, they're bigger. But I sent you the message, and then now they started releasing them like smaller, like downsized them.
Yeah, mine is fucking small. I don't like it. I mean, it's good. It's very well built.
Because these ones behind me are the old ones.
Okay.
And then you go to the ones on the side, they're like thinner.
Yeah, because mine is like this wide. No, this wide. Yeah.
That's how my new ones are.
15 to 20 movies.
These ones are like old ones. They got more width.
Yeah, I see like 25, maybe. I'm not counting because I'm too lazy, but
Yeah, but I don't know why they downsized them. I don't get it.
I like the smaller ones that I found. It's the same width, but it's like chest height. Well, my chest height, 5'6". But
Yeah, there's like two streaming channels I want. I want Criterion and then I want Arrow, the streaming service.
I wouldn't get Arrow. I would get Shudder.
No.
Because they do a lot of Arrow stuff.
Oh, okay.
They've been doing a lot of Severance stuff lately. They have the whole folk horror up.
They do. I saw that.
I was like, what the fuck? Okay, I guess I won't get the box set. I will get the box set eventually, but unless it goes out of print, I refuse to pay that much. If it goes out of print for $400.
Good. I'm a little past halfways on it, and it's hit or miss. There's some bad ones. There's some.
V is really good. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. That's really a good one.
Good.
The best one so far for me has been Eyes of Fire.
I keep hearing that. It's on Shudder, actually.
That is such a good film, man. Creepy ass imagery in it. On you.
This video is actually really fucking long. So let's wrap it up and then we can go into our crazy stuff. But
all right.
Yeah, that was our Black History Month episode. It took way longer than it needed to be in terms of preparation work. I was really wanting to delve into those box sets that I mentioned earlier. The Melvin Van Peebles, Marlon Briggs. Doing a few Arrow releases. I thought about doing Really Dynamite, which is really fucking good. But I was... It's an okay release. The main issue is that half of my case is shattered. And I hate even looking at it. I need to replace the case. I should have returned it, but I was too lazy. And now I've been living with that shame of a shattered case. But I looked at the calendar to see what March was in terms of like history. And it is Women's History Month next month.
Oh, well.
For the month of March. We're not going to do that immediately because I want to do an easy theme next time. So let's bring out the notebook.
Awesome.
I chose this last one, obviously. So I can go down the list again if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
We have female-led action. Donald Pleasance featured. Shitty remakes. I heard a really shitty remake came out just last week. Maybe 2 weeks ago. Trauma films. Home invasion. Westerns. Non-franchise slashers. Video nasties. That one is actually really limited. Robots. And then zombies. I'm sure there's a million other themes to think of. That's what I have now.
Man, that's a good list there.
We did revenge films. Did I read that?
Yeah, we did that one last. Okay. I don't think you read it.
Out. Oops.
Man. Shit. I think I like Trauma. Let's go with Trauma. That'd be alright? Trauma films.
You already know what one of my choices is. You already know.
Yeah.
It's not even a competition. I can finally go all day on a particular
All I'm going to say is put a hood on it.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be insanity. I can't wait. Lots of rewatches coming up. So the next month is Trauma films. We're not going to go with Trauma directed only, because there is the kind of wheelhouse of, you know, Lloyd Kaufman directing it, and, you know, his tiny group, James Gunn, is another one. We're going to also include produced films, like Splatter University, I think, is a great one. There's another one I want to say, but we all know what it is. I love it to death. But trauma,
it's killer and protective.
It's killer. It'll keep you safe during sex. No syphilis.
You won't get killed by it, man.
No.
But maybe you will.
Well, you may if you contract a disease, if it's poked a hole in it. At this point, everyone should know what this is, so I'm gonna stop giving hints. Thank you for joining us again. It's always fun. This one I think was a very important episode to do during this month.
And thank you for having me, Christian. It's an honor, man. It's been a blast, man, and I really enjoyed this episode. It's real important, like you said. And I look forward to the next one, man. Let's go, Troma.
Woo! Lloyd Kaufman.